time together, and I spent some time just trying to do my husband job, and I think I pulled it off pretty well. Tried to make the day special for her, and she made the day special for me, and it was nice. It was nice, like I was telling you guys, marriage is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So if you choose to get married, make sure you marry a distance runner. Don't marry a sprinter, because we got some relationship track stars out here. They either run into trouble or they're running away from challenging situations, and you don't want to try to be married to a person who thinks that way because it's not going to work. In fact, actually, I just to reiterate, I think I encourage you to really understand that marriage really is a financial investment, among other things. It's an emotional investment as well. It's a legacy investment, and all the indicators show that strong families have more wealth. And I was explaining to you all yesterday that marriage is a lot like the stock market. A lot of people avoid the stock market because they only see the crashes, they only see the hard stuff, they don't see the good days. They run away before the good times get there. So because they can't stand the rain, they miss out on all the opportunity. Because they don't want to go through the turbulence, they miss out on all the rewards at the end. So the people who stick it out, the people who find good situations, meaning like investing, you find good companies to invest in, and you create a good portfolio and you stick with it. Well, at the end of the darkness, there is sunshine. At the end of the tunnel, there is a rainbow. And generally, most studies show that people who are either long-term investors when it comes to love or long-term investors when it comes to money tend to have the most wealth, not just in terms of financial wealth, but also in terms of personal wealth. And so, ultimately, let me know. Give me a guess if you understand where I'm coming from with this, because I think that's an important lesson to kind of get. If you look at investing, I mentioned to you all that a lot of black wealth was lost mainly because we tend to sell, we tend to run away when the market goes down. So we see a crash or we see a dip, and we say, "Oh, wait, see, the dip is dipping. It's time to get out of here." And the reason that it's important to elevate your consciousness and to heal you from your trauma is because a traumatized person sometimes has a hard time seeing the big picture. They're so focused on being re-traumatized, and how scary that is, that they will run away. They become track stars, and they don't have the ability to stick it out during the tough times to know that there are good times that are coming later on. Give me a guess if you get what I'm saying. Any entrepreneur knows this. Any married man or married woman knows this. Every good investor knows this. So if you want to be wealthy, if you want to win, if you want to succeed, if you want that business to be on top, if you want to build that legacy, if you want to build that empire, if you want to be successful, if you want to be healthy, if you want to be happy, if you want to be rich, if you want to get to the top, you're going to have to understand that the hills and the valleys are part of the game. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you understand this? This is critically important to understand. There is no easy, smooth, simple path to the top. Most rich people did not have an easy ride. Most wealthy people had to go through some turbulence in order to get there. Somebody did. And once you get to the top, it's like that airplane. When the captain said we're going to have some turbulence and it's going to be rocky for a minute, but once we get up to an altitude of 30,000 feet, the air is pretty smooth up there. You ever heard the captain say that on an airplane? I got my pilot's license, so I know these kinds of things. Well, sometimes you go through the rocky part and you feel the jumpiness and all that, but then so you're scared and you're like, oh my God, I got to get off this plane because we're gonna crash, I'm gonna die, oh my God. But then you learn, you hear my voice whisper in your ear. Well, you do know that planes do not crash because of turbulence. You do know that when I studied aviation and I got my baby pilot's license, I'm a student pilot, I'm not a real one. But when I got my baby pilot's license, they taught us that the turbulence doesn't really typically bring the plane down. So then you calm down, you get rid of the trauma responses, you put the trauma outside. You say, trauma, you can be in the room, but you cannot be making no decisions. You can ride in the car, but you ain't driving, right? You don't let your trauma drive your choices. So you just sit there and you woo-saw, you breathe, you do all the things that your therapist taught you how to do, which I hope all of you will get a therapist. My wife is one if you need one. And then you chill. You get through the tough time, and then you get to 20,000, 30,000 feet, and it's smooth sailing. Everything gets easy. Suddenly it's like, whoo, and you hear ding dong. And that means you can stand up and go to the bathroom if you want, and everything's okay. And suddenly flying on the airplane is great because you're going 500 miles an hour. You're flying over all the people that got scared and jumped out with their parachutes. You're flying over all the people that won't get on a plane, so they're driving 3,000 miles instead of actually flying. You're going to get there in 6 hours. It's going to take them about a week because you were able to stay cool during the storm and get to the smooth sailing. Well, that's what being wealthy is like. That's what being rich is all about. Seriously, I mean, I'm not poor. I'm 53 years old and I've been studying finance my whole entire life. By God, it would make no sense for me to not have any money. And I took my wife to a hotel to celebrate our anniversary, and we went to we went to a really fancy place. We were bougie as hell. I took her to a bougie ass restaurant. I did eat the steak and the lobster, and we had a wonderful time. And we were talking about all the cool things that we're gonna do in our vacation house and all these other things. Well, you don't get there without going through some turbulence. So you don't get there without knowing that there's going to be some hell to pay. I wouldn't be able to sit there across from this co-champion, this teammate that I have called a wife, if both of us hadn't gone through the storm. See, some people would look at that and say, "Oh, look at them bougie ass Negroes. Niggas think they better than everybody else. Ain't never been through nothing. You don't know what it's like to be poor." I'm like, the hell I don't. I know very much what it's like to. I know more about being poor than you do, because not only do I study it, but I lived through it. I remember the bologna sandwiches with no bologna. I remember being born in the projects. My mama was 17 with no money when we were born. We were broke as hell. I remember having a roach on your plate and flicking it off the sandwich because you didn't want to waste a good sandwich just because a roach stepped on it. What are you talking about? Why in the world do we allow propaganda to separate our most successful black people from those that are still in the struggle when it's the successful, hardworking black people with discipline and commitment to family and hard work that will elevate you out this damn thing. They're gonna elevate you out this. Ain't no politician gonna get you out the mud. They need you in the mud so that they can keep their damn job. Half these black leaders don't want you out the mud because if you ain't in the mud, they ain't got nothing to do. If you're not struggling, then they don't get paid. Believe me, I sat next to Al Sharpton and I saw how they operate. I'm not saying that they're bad people. I'm not here to say that at all. I told you I think Sharpton's a brilliant man, but remember he does have that mafia affiliation. If you go look in his history, and basically it's a there was a guy. I kid you not. I'm not making fun of him. This is just me being honest with you. From this is my truth. Okay, is it okay if I tell my truth? Can I tell my truth? Because I know I don't. Sometimes when you break into people's fairy tales, they get mad at you because it doesn't fit their fantasy. But I used to go I used to love going to see Sharpton when I would go to New York, and I would sit next to him for hours and we do the radio show. He's a brilliant man. He remembers everybody's name. I don't remember nobody's name. I I could see my best friend and be like, "What's your last name again?" I'm bad with that. I don't know why. It's just but he remembers everybody's name. He tells the best stories. I mean, it's like you'll be sitting there because if you do radio, you know that with radio, the commercial breaks are super long. So there's more commercials than there's actual commentary. So we would sit there 4 or 5 minutes, and he would just start telling stories, and it was amazing. Like they'd be the best. It'd be like one time Michael Jordan and Chris Brown and Al B. Shore and Diddy all walked into a bar and we were sitting there having drinks and then Michael farted and then it'll be like the funniest story ever, right? So he's interesting. But here's the thing, you got to understand sometimes I don't know if leaders always want an empowered black community that knows how to solve its own problems. I think that there is a reason why most black leaders avoid men like Dr. Claude Anderson, who wrote Powernomics. I think there's a reason why they have an issue even with anybody that really wants to see our families stable and our community strong. And I heard there's a guy named Michael something. See, I'm bad with names, but he's a white guy and he used to be a former mafia boss and he has a great YouTube channel. It's really interesting. Like you've been amazed how wise these mafia guys are. And I think I like him because he reminds me of my dad. My dad's like he was a cop, but he's like a tough guy. So this is tough guy advice, like keep your enemies closer and your friends closer because your friends are the ones that actually end up doing you. My dad would give me advice like that. And so anyway, this guy, he knew Sharpton back in the day. And he literally the way he talked about Sharpton was he spoke about him in a very objective way, and he said, yeah, he's got a nice racket over there with the black community. It's making him good. He almost talked about like, yeah, it's making him good money. Like, yeah, he's got a pretty good gig over there. Yeah, these people are really going. He's selling something great that these people seem to want to, that they seem to enjoy. So my point is to say, not to really disparage, not to really talk much about that, but just to say that really, if you're looking for your heroes in the community, your talented tenth, I would look to the mother who's raised, four children that all graduated from college. Look to the father who's been married to that woman for 30 years and loves her into the ground and make sure that him and his children are protected. Look to the black business owner who was able to start with a couple nickels, rub them together, and turn that into a business that makes hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year. Look to the people that are healthy. Look to the people that are physically fit and able to stay in shape and healthy into their 80s and 90s because they avoided all the unhealthy food. Look to the people that are genuinely happy with their lives because they don't have to spend all their time obsessing over what white people will and will not do for them. Those are the people that are the heroes in the community, and those are the ones that have the solution. Like you have the secret sauce. You figured it out. So, long story short, that's what being rich is like. It's like you go through the bumpy turbulence, like on the airplane, and a bunch of people grab their parachutes and jump off. You just hold on to your seatbelt and you maintain, and then you get to an altitude where the air is very, very smooth. So last night the air was very, very smooth for me and my wife as we celebrated our anniversary. But you don't pretend for a second that there wasn't a lot of turbulence to get there. There were a lot of lonely nights. There was a lot of isolation. There was a lot of stress. I remember crying at my desk trying to get my doctorate because I'd never been in a situation where I could study 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, year round, and still fail a test. I didn't know that places like this existed. My wife, I told you that there were five black people in her doctoral program. Four of them didn't make it. She's the only one who survived, and that's because she simply refused to quit. She refused to take no for an answer. And if you want a little bit of advice in terms of those of you that want to be entrepreneurs, let me tell you the biggest variable I've noticed when it comes to people that are able to be most successful is that they just don't quit. Like that's literally the difference between hyper successful people and people that, could have been successful, people that have potential and didn't actually realize the potential. We talk a lot about what people could do. We talk a lot about how great somebody's idea was. But you got to finish the conversation. Don't talk about your idea until you've put 10,000 hours bringing life into that idea. Coming up with the idea to create a Facebook is not the same as investing 100,000 hours of labor required to build a Facebook. Do you understand? Right? Like or just like making a baby is easy. Raising a baby is hard. Making a baby takes a few minutes of consistent effort, much of which should be quite pleasurable for you. Raising a baby is 187,600 hours of consistent attention to this little person to make sure that they're fed and that they don't die, right? So really, at the end of the day, we got to know the difference, right? That's the economic maturity thing that I talk about in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. We've got to know how to finish the job, right? So anyway, with that being said, let me remind everybody, if you're going to Ghana with us in July, you probably need to go ahead and get your travel visa in place. They can expedite it for you. I'm going to text out a link where I'm going to go. My wife and I are going to go to get our travel visa done. If you want to join us on our business trip to Ghana, we're going to do a Black Wealth trip, a Black Wealth expedition to Ghana. So if you want to join us on that expedition and bring your family, you just text the word travel to the number 87948 and I'll send you the link. So text travel to 87948. All right. So let's see here. So here's one thing I wanted to talk about. The All right. So this is something that's an economic conversation that I wanted to have with you that I hope will help you to understand how wealth and investing works. Um, how many of you have seen yeah, are there shots required? Yes, one for yellow fever. That's the only one that's required. And you can get an exemption, but yellow fever is the one. Um, so how many of you have been following sort of the boycott with Target and everything else? Has anybody been following like what Jamal Bryant's been doing with Target and it's good work. He's a smart guy. I did actually meet Jamal in Ghana. We actually went to Ghana together in 2019. I sat and I sat and talked to him for a while and I do like him. I like him a lot. Um, so the Target boycott, there's a lot of conversation about it, about whether or not Target has paid a price for their behavior. I think they have. It looks to me like they've lost some money because of it. When people point to the stock market decline, you got to be really careful about that part because stock prices are complex. They're what they call forward-looking indicators. A forward-looking indicator means the stock market isn't as concerned with what's happening right now as it is with what it expect is going to happen in the future. So it's not that today does not matter. I'm not saying that at all. But you guys know my dissertation was on the stock market. So it's not that today doesn't matter. What's really happening is that today matters only to the extent that it's going to affect the future, right? So if I see something happening today, like a boycott, the market might react to the boycott if the market believes that the boycott's going to lead to something long-term sustainable that's going to affect the long-term valuation of the organization. Now, one of the things that's interesting about Target stock, actually, that's an interesting thing to kind of analyze as we kind of jump into this topic, is I'm going to pull up the stock price of Target and kind of give you an assessment of what I'm seeing here. All right, so and if anybody knows the date that the boycott started, get let me know what date it started. I can't remember. Wasn't there like a day, a specific day where everyone just agreed like this is where we're going to start boycotting Target? Was it like April 1st or something? It seemed like it was around Trump's that weird thing Trump did. We called it Victory Day or Liberation Day or I don't know, or like, I don't know. I'm a goofy president day. I don't. I can't remember. But anyway, if anybody finds out the date, put it in the chat. I'm gonna pull up the image of Target stock price so we can kind of do a quick assessment of it. All right. So here's the deal. All right. Basically with Target stock, you have it's the current price right now is $95.21. Okay. And oh, somebody said felt like February, Steven says. Yeah, I'm gonna find the date in a second, but let me y'all know how my ADHD gets. I'll get distracted. All right, so here's Target stock price. Right now it's $95.21. If you look at the last month, it's been green by about 1.5%. Last 6 months, it should be quite red, 23.6% decline. That's pretty bad. That could be due to the boycott or the loss of goodwill that happened to them when they decided that they wanted to flip-flop on their diversity initiatives. The big mistake that Target made, in my view, February 25th, thank you, Tara. Um, the big mistake that Target made, in my view, is that they did what a lot of corporations do. They became schizophrenic, or they had this sort of multiple personality disorder as it pertained to where they stood on the culture wars. I personally think that major corporations shouldn't get involved in the culture wars. They shouldn't pick a side. It's too divisive. But if you pick a side, you better stay on their side. If you pick a side, you better be consistent. Whatever you choose, whatever you decide you're gonna do, you better be 10 toes down on it. Because if you're not, you're gonna get killed. You're gonna get absolutely obliterated. You're gonna get shot up. It's like you're in a gang affiliated neighborhood, and one day you're trying to be a Crip, next day you're trying to be a Blood. Now the Crips and the Bloods want to kill you. So basically, the mistake Target made was they pretty much committed to being a woke sort of company. They did that they did sort of a pride display or something, and then the conservatives came down hard on them, and they just backed away from it, because they were afraid. And then they had the liberals and the conservatives mad at them because it's not like the conservatives all said, okay, now that you've buckled for us, we're going to start all going to shop at your store. But then you've angered the liberal side that you claim to support. So it tells people that you're only doing things for the money. Well, the same thing is true with their DEI initiatives. Target was committed to DEI, sort of, I guess, and or at least they claim to be. A lot of companies say that they're committed to it, but they really weren't committed to it. And DEI, in my opinion, wasn't doing a whole lot for the black community. Although some people did benefit from it, but a lot of people didn't. And I think that's where the resentment came in. I know a lot of people who never benefited from DEI. They never benefited from all the money that was raised. That's what George Floyd got killed. Black Lives Matter got, over 100 million or some insane amount of money, and nobody in the black community that I know got any of that money. So you created kind of like this weird thing where you had the elites that got benefits, but regular people did not. So if you look at Target stock price, and let's go back to February, late February. So here's late February 27th. Let's look at that date, right? Now you can see here, Target stock price was already kind of on the decline. I'm going to speculate that if you wanted to connect it to the boycott, then yeah, maybe it was already on the decline because people were talking about the boycott before the boycott began. Um, and that's bad. And you can see it's continued to go down. The stock price was as high as 141. Now it's down to 95. You look at the stock year to date, it's down 30% year to date. The shareholders are pissed. You look at the last year for Target, 33%. Last 5 years, if you've been an investor in Target in the last 5 years, then you've lost money, right? So Target has had problems for a while though, right? Here you see the stock price in 2021 was $261. Now it's down to $95. So Target has always consistently been bad at meeting its revenue objectives. So things only got worse. And this is a Wall Street Journal article. It says Target sales dented by the DEI boycott. So my conclusion here is that the boycott is worsening things for Target, which is a company that already was not doing a very good job of serving the shareholders. In case you don't know, the reason I encourage all of you to find companies that you like and that you believe in and to become shareholders is because shareholders are the ones who actually own the company. The managers of the company do not own the company. The investors own the company. So the number one job of the company manager is to actually maximize the wealth of the shareholders. That means that when you buy stock, they are working for you. When you buy stock, they're supposed to make more money for you. They're supposed to put more money in your pocket. And if they don't do that, they get removed. Now, this is a problem though. This is capitalism. This is an artifact of an economic system that isn't very fair to workers. It's not very fair to the poor. There's nothing in the corporate mandate that says that these companies are supposed to do anything other than maximize the wealth of the shareholders. There's nothing saying that they're supposed to take care of the customers. There's nothing that says they're supposed to take care of the workers. There's nothing that says they're supposed to take care of the environment. There's nothing to say that they should give a damn about their suppliers. That's a problem. That's a big, big problem, but that's what it is, right? So owning stock is actually the best way to build wealth in America. We know this. And so with Target, it looks like their stock price did suffer because of the boycott. So for those that support the boycott, congratulations, you did it. You did a good job. You shut down the company to some extent. You made them pay a price. The conservatives are doing the same thing. When they find a company that supports DEI, they'll attack that company if they don't like what they're doing. So I think Disney did something about they became really they got really into the gay stuff. And that was a mistake on Disney's part. The conservatives punished Disney. I think Bud Light did an ad where they what was it? They had a trans guy, doing a Bud Light ad. And I think what they were doing was they were trying to hit all the niches, and they didn't understand that once you hit a certain niche, that ad can still go viral and be seen by everyone who's not in that niche. So basically, the it's almost like dating, right? Like, if a person is dating one person, and let's say they're dating another person that the other person doesn't know about, they live across the country, then they may think, oh, well, I can just date this person and that person, and what they don't know doesn't affect them, right? They can look at it that way, but then they find out that you're dating this other person, they're going to be like, wait a minute, this is not consistent with what you told me. So Bud Light was sort of caught with their pants down in that way, where basically everyone said, wait a minute, so you're promoting this stuff to trans people, and that's a problem. And so Bud Light got hit pretty hard. So these culture wars are bad. I think companies should not really get involved with it, to be honest with you, unless you're really committed to it, unless that's really your jam. Like Ben and Jerry's for ice cream, for example, they're hyper liberal. They should stand on that. Another company that made a mistake was Starbucks. Starbucks is and I knew this was going to happen. See, here's what Starbucks did that I thought was just stupid. And this is why their stock dropped. I did buy Starbucks stock though, because I believe that their new CEO won't make the same mistake. So Starbucks, they're like super liberal, like, hey, yeah, we're down for the cause, we're down, the gay stuff, black stuff, we're down for all of that, and so people believe them. The investors believe them, the customers believe them, the employees believe them. But then what happened was the employees came along and said, well, since we're all a bunch of liberals here, we should have a union, right? Because and I think unions are good anyway. Just it shouldn't even be a liberal thing. It should be a fairness thing. So so they said they started to unionize. And does anybody know what happened when Starbucks started to unionize? What happened when Starbucks started to unionize? Well, the company began to bust up those labor unions. The company was like, "Oh hell no! Like, wait a minute, labor unions. That means we're gonna have to negotiate with you, and you're going to cut into our corporate profits, which is going to leave us in conflict with our mandate to maximize the wealth of the shareholders, because the shareholders don't like unions because that's going to take their money." So Starbucks ended up being punished for that. In addition to other mistakes they were making, like too many stores and bad customer service. There was a Starbucks. We had a house. We have a house in Atlanta, and I go there, and I there's a Starbucks not far away, and I went to the Starbucks on a Tuesday afternoon to get my coffee and do my work, and literally the store was closed because they didn't have enough employees. It was like Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and I'm like, you're not even open because you don't have enough people. Like this, that's ghetto, right? That's tacky as hell, right? And so if it's so really, companies that sort of choose which side they want to play in the politics, I think they tend to lose. I don't think that tends to work out for them. And I don't think this is working out for Target. I think that boycott really is causing them some distress. Now, here's what I want to say about the boycott thing in general. First off, let me make one quick point. One more point about stock market investing. I hope that you're consistently investing in the market. Give me a yes if you're a stock market investor. Let me know if you're invested. And also give me a double yes if you're investing regularly. I don't just want you to invest one time, right? Think of it like food. You don't eat one time and then say, "Well, I ate 3 years ago, so I should be fine today." Right? I ate Tuesday, so I shouldn't be hungry on Saturday. No, you should be hungry every day, right? And that's how the wealth is built. If you do that and you're not selling your stock, that's the other thing too. You can't just go selling it every time you buy it. You got to let the flower grow. You're building massive amounts of wealth for the next generation. I mean, I hope you'll pat yourself on the back, cheer for yourself. Let everybody know that you are the SHIT because you literally are switching the generational curses. You're creating generational. I don't care how small the amounts are. The math shows that small amounts grow into massive amounts of money. If you had a great grandparent that was literally buying you like $1 worth of stock every week in the 1930s, you would be insanely wealthy. That's what's so crazy is that people don't even believe me when I tell them. They think that to be rich, you got to be born rich, or somebody's got to give you a bunch of money, or you got to get a record deal, or you got to get to the NBA, or you got to get real lucky, or your lottery ticket got to come in. All that's BS. None of that stuff works. What does work is consistent investment. That will get you where you want to get to. So if you're not sure what to do, just go to blackwealthmasterplan.com. That's the $5 a day plan, blackwealthmasterplan.com. The URL's above my head. And also, in fact, here's something that's really interesting that happened to me this week. True story. And because I put it on my Twitter, a few years ago, I bought about okay, I've talked about Nvidia, and I mentioned to you all that I own Nvidia stock, and Nvidia shot up, and we made a bunch of money. But one thing I had forgotten was I had a portfolio where I also bought some Nvidia stock in that portfolio, and a few years ago, I bought about $6,000 worth of Nvidia stock, and I went in and I said, "Let me see what's going on over here," and I'm like, boop 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 boop. And I said, "Oh my God, it's $89,000. Holy crap!" Right? I was floored by that, and so it went from 6,000 to 89,000, and I didn't even know it. I literally figured this out 2 days ago, and I was like, "Isn't this cool?" Right? So hey, baby, look what I found, and that's kind of what investing should do for you, right? You should invest so consistently that you don't even remember where you invested the money, like what stocks you bought, stuff like that. I don't think your whole life or your economic life or death should hinge on any one investment that you make. So if you find yourself getting overly upset because one stock went down or whatever, just really remember that might mean you're not diversified enough. I literally have forgotten I bought that Nvidia stock, but it was a pleasant surprise to know that I planted the seed and I got the reward. So remember that people who get a harvest are people who plant seeds. People who have no harvest are typically either people who planted no seeds or they were planting seeds for someone else. Do you understand? So it's not to say that you were lazy. We know you've been going to work every day. You've been a good person. You've been doing the best you can. But if there's no harvest, that means no seeds were planted for you. And I need you to plant some seeds for you. The same way every day you get up and go to work, you're planting a seed for somebody else. Every time you pay rent on time every month, you're planting a seed for somebody else. Every time you make a car note payment, you're planting a seed for somebody else. Every time you buy a product at the mall, you're planting a seed for somebody else. All I need you to do is make sure that some of those seeds are planted for you so that you can have a harvest also. The stock market's a great place to begin. We do stock market Tuesdays every week where you can ask me questions and I create a list of stocks that I like. And also, there's a whole curriculum. We've had the stock market program for about 6 years now. It's very, very popular. So if you go to drboystockmarket.com, in fact, you can get 70% off the annual fee by using this code. Type this in the chat, morning 70, all one word, drboystockmarket.com. Use the code morning 70. It'll take 70% off the annual fee. The annual fee is like $9.99. It drops it down to $2.99. So feel free to go to drboystockmarket.com. Use the code morning 70, and that'll give you the discount. And I'll also text it out to you. If you're not on the text list for this class, text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. Now, let me mention something about the boycotts. Let's go back to that really quickly. This is the point I wanted to make today. I don't have any issue with the boycotts, but I do have an issue with wasted energy. I don't have an issue with us taking down Target. I do have an issue with where we're putting our attention. I'm not saying that I think the boycotts are bad. I just don't see as much energy being put into supporting black owned businesses as we put into boycotting white owned businesses. I have to explain this carefully because sometimes people don't understand what I'm trying to say. I will hear people say things like what Agnes said, which you're right. She said, I do both. Absolutely. Absolutely. I do both for sure. Um, Doing both is true, but there are some scenarios, most scenarios, where doing both is hard. Um, like for example, if someone says, "Well, do you want to live in Chicago or do you want to live in New York?" And I say, "I do both." Well, for some people, maybe you can. If you've got a lot of money and a lot of time, you can do both. But most people have to make a choice. Or if someone says, "Are you a Democrat or are you a Republican?" and I say, "Well, I'm both." That's hard to do. It's hard to be a Democrat and a Republican. Or if someone says, "You have an hour of time, are you going to go to the gym or are you going to go to lunch?" And I say, "Well, I'm going to do both." That's really hard, maybe because the time is short, time is scarce, and it's going to be hard. If I try to do both, then I'll get split up. Sometimes you could try to do so many things that you get nothing done. And also, typically, what happens is when we say we're doing both, like if someone says, "Boyce, do you want to be married to Alicia or do you want to date this other lady?" And I say, "Well, I want to do both." Let's just be honest. Even if were to do something like that, which I'm not, one person would probably get more of my attention than the other. Do you understand? Like one person would get a part of me, the other person would get a piece of me, right? One person would get a big part of me, the other person might get a smaller part of me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Right? So what I'm saying here is when you're talking about the boycotting of Target, I want us to really think for a moment about what that means. What does that mean when we're boycotting Target? Here's my problem with the boycott, and honestly, why I'm just not really participating in any of it. I don't boycott Target because I don't even shop at Target like that anyway, right? I'm not thinking about Target. Why? Well, because my attention is limited. I can only give my attention to certain things. Um, why am I not worried about letting Target know, teaching them a lesson? Like you better not mess with us black folks. We go because I've learned over time. I've concluded that the more attention I pay to what white people are doing, the less attention I have available to focus on what black people could be doing. Do you understand? It doesn't mean that I can't do both. I'm not saying you can't do both. What I'm saying is that when you're doing both, if I say, if somebody says, well, Boyce, you can either invest your money in your family business or you can invest your money in your cousin's business, and I say, oh, I got plenty of money, I can do both. That's true. But if my goal is to make my family business the absolute best that it can be, then there's a point where the rubber meets the road and somebody says, well, every dollar you're putting into that other business, you could be putting it into the family business. So by choosing to split your energy up, you are effectively taking something away from the other thing. It could be argued that you're doing that. Or you could just say, no, each of them are equally important, so I'm going to give my time to both. That's fine. Sometimes we have to do that. Maybe with kids, like someone says, "Well, do you love this child or that child?" I love them both. That makes sense. I get that part. So, so the question then becomes though. Here's the thing. Here's where. So this is the question, right? So if I talk about kids and I say, and I say, well, do you love child A or child B? And you say, I love them both. That makes sense. Why? Well, because both children are equally important to you. Do you understand? Do you get it? Okay. So I want to ask you this question: which is more important, boycotting Target or building black-owned businesses? Which is more important, teaching Target a lesson or getting the hell up out of there and creating something of our own? Which matters the most? But do you think they're equally important? If they're equal, that's okay. That's all right. I'll give my assessment, but your assessment can disagree, can be different from mine. I'm not here asking you to agree with everything I say. I'm not asking you to think like me. I'm just asking you to think for yourself. Okay? So if one is more important than the other, then some could argue that when you're focusing attention on one thing, you're taking something away from the other. And I can just tell you this, when I'm listening to the time that's spent talking about teaching Target a lesson, I don't see equal time spent talking about how it is so important that we build our own businesses anyway, support those businesses, etc. Um, in fact, what I even extrapolate that to other real life examples. If I spend all my time, if I leave a relationship or if I'm in an abusive relationship and I spend all my time talking about my ex, then it's really hard for me to focus on loving the new person that I'm with. In fact, that would be a dating tip. Don't ever date somebody who spends all their time talking about their ex, even if they're talking about how much they hate their ex, because all the energy that they're giving to their ex shows not that they hate their ex, it's they're really showing you that they love their ex. They're just mad that the ex has something that they can't have. That they're not being given access to something. So you're kind of the second choice. That's why he's so mad at his ex, because really he would be with her if he could be, but she left him, so he's pissed off about it, or she took something away, or she him in some way, or whatever, right? So you're not really getting a whole person. You're getting a ghost of a person. You're getting the body, but the spirit and the mind is somewhere else. So here's what I see when I see the Target boycott. When I see a boycott, here's what I'm seeing. The boycott, it says, it speaks in this language to me. It says, "We were cool, man. Like we were ready to give you all of our money, man. And now you tripping and you decided that you wanted to cut your DEI program. So now I'm gonna boycott you to let you know that that I'm taking my money away until you change your behavior." Typically with a boycott, at some point, and I don't know if this has happened or not, there's a meeting, right? Am I right? Tell me if I'm right. There's usually like a meeting where eventually the corporation, the CEO, acknowledges the boycott, right? Tell me if you know what I'm talking about. This has happened many times with the Jesse Al, scenarios of the past, where they'll have a meeting and they'll say, "Okay, okay, all right, woo, you drive a hard bargain, boy. Oh, you people, yeah, have okay, all right, we'll have a meeting." So Jesse and Al, maybe Jamal Bryant now, will all go to the office of the CEO, and they'll sit down. They'll have, "This is our list of demands. We demand that you reinstate your DEI programs. We demand that you da da da." Well, if you lay out your list of demands and you're expecting them to meet your demands, that means that there's something that they're expecting in return. Am I right? Like because if they believe that you're gonna not support them anyway, then why in the hell would they give you your demands? Why would they meet with you? Why would they give you anything unless they believe that you're gonna flip around and say, "Okay, they're good now, y'all. Everybody go shop at Target again. Y'all can have our money again because y'all did right. You're an ally to us." Do you understand what I'm saying? Like a boycott kind of is a way of, it's like going on strike. A boycott is basically like going on strike. If a worker goes on strike, he's demanding something in exchange for him to come back to work. He's setting the he's reestablishing the relationship. He's renegotiating the terms and saying, "If you give me what I want, then I can come back to work. But until you give me what I want, I'm not coming back to work." Now I need you to pay attention now. The employee that goes on strike is very different from the employee who says, you could take this job, shove it up your ass, I'll be down the street building my own. Do you understand? The employee who decides he wants to go build his own business, he ain't spending his time going on strike. I don't know a single business owner who spends time picketing their old job. I don't know a single person in here. How many of y'all business owners? If you're a business owner and you're able to, and you're blessed enough to the point where you're up on, you're working full time on your business, are you going back to your old job and saying, "Hell no, we won't go. Hell no, we won't go. Give me what we want. I'm boycotting you. I'm on strike." You don't do that, right? You don't do that. I'm married to the most beautiful woman in the world. I ain't going back to none of my exes and saying I'm on strike. I'm boycotting you. You can't have this no more because you won't act right. If you don't act right, I ain't giving you the no, you can't have none of this. You're gonna have to take in all this delicious chocolate through the internet, girl, because our day is done. I've moved on to something so much better than you. It's so much better than you that I ain't even thinking about you. Why? Well, because the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is not anger. The opposite of love is not resentment. The opposite of love, it's really indifference. It's when you get to the point where you've moved, you've leveled up, you've elevated, you out there, you're out of here, you're gone. You're like somebody says, well, you know your ex is dating another man. You're like, oh, okay. Right. Well, she just got married. Oh, good for her. Wow, that's great. Good luck to those. That's what happens when someone has clearly moved on. So the problem for black people, I believe, is that many of us, not all of us, many of us have not gotten to the point where we have moved on from that toxic relationship that we have with white economic colonialism. We love us some white folks. We love us some validation. We love getting a seat at his table. We would love to sit at a table with a Donald Trump. We would love to sit at a table with a Joe Biden. We want to sit at a table with the CEO of Target because that makes us feel validated. That makes us feel whole because we don't believe we really got nothing back at home anyway. And sometimes that's kind of true, at least in the present, because you ain't spent time building nothing at home. You spent all your time building for somebody else. So you're looking at the thing that you've been pouring into and you're demanding a piece of what you poured into. I get that, right? I understand that. Like we work every day to build these big white companies. We deserve a piece of that. And I do believe you deserve a piece of that. I just don't believe they're going to give it to you. The best way to get a piece of that might be going to invest in the stock market. Go own you some Starbucks, go own you some McDonald's, go own you some AI companies. Cool. I think that's fine. But really sitting and spending my time boycotting white owned businesses, I don't that if you were to ask me, hey, Dr. Boyce, can you come down to the boycott with us and we're gonna stand with picket signs in front of somebody else's business? I would say, why would I do that? I got work to do. I'm building something over here. So really what I would say is that if you're really trying to win a race, you don't win a race by criticizing the competition. You win a race by running your fastest. Um, if you're building a house, you really don't build a better house because you tore down somebody else's house. I mean, sure, burning down Mass's house certainly gives us a certain degree of satisfaction. I'm all for it to some extent. But the problem is, the more time I spend burning down Mass's house, the less time I'm spending building my own. The more time I spend hating other people, the less time I can spend loving myself. I told y'all, I don't, I have people all the time that expect me to be angry at white people and to hate white people or dislike white people. And I say, why would I do that? That's a waste of time. Me hating a white man does not make me a better black man. It just doesn't. I believe in holding in accountability. I'm a Malcolm X kind of guy, 100%. Y'all know this, but at the end of the day, it's like, no, I'm spending time loving my family. I'm spending time loving my kids. I'm spending time loving y'all. I'm spending time educating anybody that will listen. That's what matters to me because I really believe that when you get to the point where you're truly the best you can be at what you do, you're really not sitting around all mad and concerned about what everybody else is doing. You're just winning. If you look in the unit, a lot of it's about energy. I've mentioned this. I mean, maybe you remember me mentioning this, but I thought about it and I said there are some people who say I'm a product of my environment. Right. And I hear that, and I think that's true when we're children. We're products of our environment. Our environment shapes us. People's opinions shape us. What people tell us what to do, people we follow people around us, etc. But then when you become a grown ass man and a grown woman, you fully mature yourself economically, spiritually, and otherwise, you realize that you no longer have to be a product of your environment. You can choose to make your environment a product of you. Your environment, rather than saying I'm shaped by the environment that I'm in, you say, I get to shape this environment. I get to be proactive and create the environment that I want. And that's really part of my goal. Part of my goal isn't just to teach you economics, it's also to encourage you to believe in yourself and to have self-esteem. I told you I don't teach any students. I have zero students. I only teach teachers. I want you to feel empowered to say, damn, I've been listening to this guy Boyce. I've listened to him. I've listened to 3,000 lectures from him, or 300 or 30 or whatever. I probably know more about economics than anybody in my family, so I'm gonna share what I know and push people. I'm gonna make myself into a black leader so I don't sit back and passively wait for someone else to lead. And really that energy thing, it makes me think about the universe. I think about how in our solar system, you have the sun that sits in the middle. It's a big ball of fire and energy and gravity, and all the planets revolve around the sun. And that's kind of, I think, how we're trained to think. We're trained to think that we're supposed to revolve around what white folks are doing. We're revolving around what the media is telling us. We're revolving around what other people are doing. So we think of ourselves as planets. I don't really want to be a planet. I want to be the sun. When you become the sun, you don't revolve. The sun does not revolve around any planet. All the sun does is it sits there and it just shines. And what's the difference? The difference is energy. What's your energy level? What's your spiritual energy? How much energy do you put into building? If you put your energy into being the best person you can be, you don't have to worry about trying to change the people around you. They're all going to notice. Everyone's going to notice, like, wow, she's looking good. He's really confident. He commands power when he walks in the room. She's doing really well financially. What's their family doing? All their kids are going to Ivy League schools, right? When you start really shining and you're focused, seeing all your energy on investing in yourself and your family and being the best you can be, then what's going to happen is people are going to pay attention. They're gonna start revolving around you, and it's gonna come with some other stuff. Like people will gossip about you, but they'll also praise you. They'll talk about you, and you ain't even noticing what's going on. You're just doing your thing. You're just being the best you can be. I believe that our ancestors had that with Black Wall Street. That's what they had in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. They were just shining. They weren't sitting around saying, well, let's go beg for a job from white people. Let's go boycott a white-owned business. They weren't saying, let's go ask the government to give us jobs. They were saying, let's build right here. Let's start our own ecosystem and let's make it extraordinary. Let's pursue excellence. We're not comparing it to anything. We're just being the best that we can be. And they created something extraordinary. And what happened with that? Well, the little planet started revolving around. Like, what are those Negroes doing over there? Wait, they got all those businesses? They're actually doing well, and they don't need our help. What's happening over there? Almost like your ex. You know, when your ex is used to you calling and begging and baby, please come back, baby. And then you finally find you start loving yourself and you start focusing on yourself or focusing on your next move, right? Then suddenly they're like, well, I ain't heard from you for a while. What are you over there doing? And then they start getting a little bit jealous. And that's what happened with Black Wall Street. People started getting jealous of the black excellence that lived in that space. They started being concerned about it. And that's what led to the attacks, of course, right? So remember, when you are the sun, when you really start shining, the planets are going to come try to attack you. But if you keep your energy high, then if any planet ever tried to attack the sun, all the sun would do is burn that damn thing alive. So at the end of the day, my goal is not to ever be a planet. I want to be the sun. I want to be the sun. If you come and try to disrupt something that I'm doing, I'm gonna burn you alive with something. I'm gonna either burn you alive with my intellect because I study what I know very deeply. Maybe I'll burn you with my kindness because I don't have a need to be mad at you or get petty with you. I'll be nice to you and support you because I forgive you for you may not know what you do. Maybe I'll burn you alive with my power. I'm not. I've become powerful in certain ways just because I'm committed to what I'm doing. I've been very consistent with it. So either way, at the end of the day, my goal is to be the sun, and I do not want to operate on that vibrational frequency of being a planet. I think we're trained to be planets. I think that when we're spending all of our time angry at white folks, looking at what white folks are doing, Talking about what white folks did, that's less time that we could spend talking about what we've done and what we're doing. Let me give you an example of why Black power lives and how much power you have if you tap into it. Before I do that, I want to let everybody know I'm going to give you something right now, actually, so that we can. This isn't just theory. This is something you can apply. Here's something I call the Dr. Boyce game plan for getting off the corporate plantation. So it's a training I did. Let me see if I can find it. Some of you already have it. If you don't have it, you're gonna have it in a minute. So I'm gonna put it in the chat, and you can feel free to take a look at it. If it helps you, then God bless you. Then I want you to be successful. Let's see here. Ray Ray says you may not go to church, but God is using you for a purpose. I can see it. Yeah, I'm very connected to God, Ray Ray. In fact, I'm so connected to God that I don't want to go to church anymore. I believe that when you get to the point where you're really close to God, you start wondering about these churches and the pastors and some of the stuff that I can't. Some of that stuff doesn't make sense to me. Some of it doesn't add up. And also, I'm a cerebral person. So if you take me to a church where all you're doing is jumping up and down and repeating yourself for 2 hours, I'm gonna kind of get a little bit frustrated because I actually want to grow. I want to learn. I want something meaningful. I don't want just emotionality. I know emotionality matters. I think that's important, but I need a plan. I need a solution. I need a framework. I need something that's going to help me to really understand the world better. Do you understand? So anyway, feel free to take a look at that Dr. Boyce game plan if you want to. Also, don't forget, I'll text it out later. So if you want to get the text messages from us, just text the word morning to the number 87948. Text morning to 87948. So let me give you how many of y'all know? Put it in the chat. Let's do a quick trivia. How many of you know how much spending power black people have now? How much spending power do black people have in 2025? Put the number in the chat. Let me see. In the trillions, okay. 1.8 trillion. El Haj got it right. That's 100% correct. And by the way, somebody mentioned something true about black churches that you can't judge all churches based on one or two, and that's 100% true. There's thousands of churches, and I told you about the trip I took to Daylight Christian Center in Detroit, and they're literally educated. They're giving their congregation a better financial education than most universities, and I can say this as a university professor. I literally they're gonna know more about economics from that church than my students knew with 4 years at Syracuse University and $100,000 in debt. So the churches that are doing it right are doing a huge service to the community. I applaud you. I encourage you to make financial intelligence an important part of your mission, but also understand how to do it in a way where you're not telling people to go out and become hardcore capitalists, because I don't think capitalism is consistent with the teachings of the Bible. But I think you can do well financially. And you should do well financially because, I think I do believe God wants you to be happy. He wants you to be safe. He wants you to be prosperous. He doesn't want you in the mud, struggling, begging for money, doing unethical things to get money. He wants you to be in a space where you're financially secure. But the financial security should then be used as a tool. Money is not a destination, money is a tool. So that tool can be used to allow you to get access to the things that money can't buy. It unlocks a higher vibrational experience where you then can have the healthy relationships because you've got the money. You can have the better health mentally and physically because you can take a spa day instead of going to work. Instead of being stressed out at your job, you're sitting up in a spa somewhere, right? Or on vacation in Fiji, or going to visit your grandmother and sitting next to her bedside before she passes, or spending time with your spouse, right? My anniversary came up. I wanted to use money to be able to give my wife a great experience and so that she would know how much I love her. Not that she needs the money for me to show her I love her, but money makes it easier, right? So what I'm saying to you is that the money should be part of a comprehensive plan, wealth plan that you have for yourself and for your family. What does that really look like? What does a healthy, wealthy family look like? It is a family that has plenty of money, but it's also a family that has plenty of love, plenty of connection, communication. Everybody's doing things that they're happy with. You get together. It's an amazing experience. Ain't no trauma stuff going on, no crazy ghetto stuff going on. Ain't nobody getting hurt, getting stole from. Ain't nobody got to leave the family reunion because they got to go to work, right? You're able to really live the life that you want to live. And that to me is what it means to be free. All right. So let me tell you this. So the number is 1.8 trillion, right? That's how much money we have as a community that some say we burn through every year. It's up to you to decide if we do that or not. I don't think we burn through it all, but we burn through a lot of it. I don't think we know the potential, the economic potential of our community. So let me just lay out a quick list. These are all the things you could do with 1.8 trillion that we could do this every year if we wanted to. Number one, we could buy the entire NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and the National Hockey League. In one year, we could do this. With 1 year of income that we spend, we could do oh, and by the way, we could do it twice a year. We could literally buy the NFL, the NBA, the Major League Baseball, and the National Hockey League twice a year, every year. What else could we do? We could purchase every single home in Atlanta, Detroit, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. We could acquire Amazon and Walmart if we wanted to. We could buy out NBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox News if we wanted to, and still have another $1.5 trillion left. We could give universal health care to every single person in America. The cost of universal health care would be 1.5 trillion for Medicare and Medicaid, or that's how much the government spends. We could actually afford to pay that ourselves if we wanted to. We could build 1,800 black-owned billion-dollar businesses every year, 1,800 billion-dollar businesses each year. We could fund every HBCU, we could give every single HBCU an endowment that equals Harvard University. We could literally give every HBCU a $50 billion endowment. There's 101 HBCUs, so 50 billion would be less than the total amount of money that we spend as a community every year. If we were focused economically, this is what we could do. We could launch our own space program if we wanted to. Did y'all know that black people could literally have our own space program if we wanted to? The cost of a space program is $27 billion a year. That's NASA's annual budget. So we could fund 66 in 1 year of income, we could fund 66 years of missions to Mars. So we could literally fund black people going to Mars if we wanted to. Mars, Venus, and beyond. We could end homelessness in America, but we could do that 90 times over because it would only cost $20 billion to end homelessness in America, which is insane. We could also create a Black Wall Street in every single state with $36 billion per state. We could have schools, hospitals, grocery chains, media studios, tech hubs, investment banks, and we could do this literally in every single state. Do y'all understand the gravity of what I just said? How do you feel about what I said? What do you think? I mean, what does this say to you? So when people tell me that black people are poor, I have to disagree with you. I just don't understand how we can sit around and say, we's poor, we broke, we ain't got nothing. I just told you we could buy the entire NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, and what was the other one? Major League Baseball, oh, and the National Hockey League, and we could do it twice a year. We can literally do it twice a year. And so stop telling me that we ain't got no money. We got money. We just don't have focus. We have plenty of economic energy, but the energy is not focused. Like if you think about the energy of the sun, when it's a bright sunny day, you feel warmth on your body because the energy is going out in different directions. But if you took all the energy of the sun, even 1% of the energy of the sun and put it into a laser, that laser could go through rocks. That laser could go through metal. It could go through anything. So for us to understand our economic power, we have to realize that what's happened is that we've been trained to waste our economic power. Our economic power has been dissipated. Our energy has been unfocused. Our attention is unfocused. We are splattered everywhere. It starts with how in every family, instead of you focusing your economic energy on the family business, everybody splatters and goes to their different jobs. So that all that energy, all that labor, all that attention, all that brilliance that could be focused on one goal, which is to make this family wealthy, instead that energy is splattered everywhere, dissipated, unfocused, spread out, and it's being sent over here and over here and over here. You working your job as a nurse, he's working his job over at the corporation as an engineer. So and so's going over to the Ford plant, right? And so all that energy is dissipated. It's not just happening as a community, it's actually happening on an individual level. In fact, did y'all know that I mean, we spend 1.8 trillion dollars a year. The GDP of Russia is 1.9 trillion. So we're right behind Russia. The GDP of South Korea is 1.7 trillion. The GDP of Australia is 1.6 trillion. The GDP of Mexico, we have more money than Mexico. We have more money than South Korea. We have more money than Australia. How the hell are you going to tell me that you got more money than Australia and you're broke? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all. So, so I'm gonna say this. Um, here's the plan, okay? If you're talking about the long-term plan for black economics, it's very simple. Number one, every black child should own shares of stock from the time that they're born. No excuses. If you can buy fried chicken, you can buy shares of stock. If you can buy Air Jordans, you can buy shares of stock. If you can put that little boy in football camp, basketball camp, baseball camp, or whatever, you can buy shares of stock. If you can go see every Black Panther movie that comes out, you can go buy shares of stock. Number two, every child in our community should learn how to start a business. Stop creating millions of children who only know how to shop for jobs. The economic system cannot sustain all those kids. A big chunk of them are going to be unemployed. They're going to be struggling. They're going to be out here in these streets, broke, hating themselves, feeling bad, feeling sad, getting on drugs, giving up on life because you left them abandoned. You abused that child when you did not prepare him to survive in this economy. You hurt that child when you lied to him and said that the white man loves him enough that he's going to take care of your son. White man ain't going to take. He is not going to be your baby daddy. You need to take care of your kids and you take care of them by training them. Number three, every child should know the importance of ownership as a key to wealth, not good jobs, not high incomes, not swag, not driving a fancy car, not living in a nice apartment. None of those things equate to wealth. Not even a good credit score really equates to wealth. A good credit score can give you an opportunity to have wealth, but that does not get you there. If you know what ownership looks like, then your goal will be to acquire assets. People that are wealthy in America are people that acquire assets and hold on to them. Also, the reason that you want to have specialized training for the child is because when they're trained on things like how to maintain healthy relationships instead of falling into this toxic culture that they feed us this horrible toxic culture. I mean, I know a lot of rappers, but I have to just confront some of that and say, what are you doing? You're teaching these kids to be little narcissists, little assholes that nobody wants to do business with. Nobody wants to do business with you if you are a jerk, if you constantly telling everybody how you're better than them and promoting the worst. I mean, they promote drug addiction to youth. Do you know how destructive that is? Do you know how bad that destroys the black family? Have you ever had to try to build a family business with a drug addict? They're gonna steal all your damn money half the time. It's not all the time. I mean, not every time, but I mean, come on, you know what I'm talking about. So why in the world would we even think it's okay for people to promote that toxic culture with among us, right? So if you want to know some other countries that we actually have more wealth than, here are some countries that have GDPs that are less than 1.8 trillion. There's a lot of them. I'm not going to read them all, but if anybody ever tells you black people are struggling and that's why it's stupid to talk about investing, I want you to let them know that black people have more income than South Korea. We have more money than Russia, Mexico, Indonesia, the Netherlands. We have more money than Saudi Arabia. We got the Saudis killed. Switzerland, Argentina, Sweden, Poland, Belgium, Thailand, Ireland, Nigeria, Austria, Israel. We have three times more money than Israel. Norway, the United Arab Emirates. We have far more money than them. South Africa, Singapore, Denmark, Malaysia, the Philippines, Colombia, Bangladesh, Vietnam, Pakistan, Chile. Should I keep going or is that enough? Did I get the point across or should I keep going? Or should I tell you also that Finland, the Czech Republic, Romania, Portugal, New Zealand, Greece, Peru, Hungary, Kazakhstan. Is that enough or you want me to keep going? Let me keep going. Let me just, in case you ain't got it through your thick head that we're not poor, let me also tell you that we have more money than Qatar, Ukraine, Iraq, Algeria, Kuwait, Morocco, Ecuador, Slovakia, Angola, Sri Lanka, Kenya, Ethiopia, the Dominican Republic, Guatemala, Oman, Panama, Ghana, Bulgaria, Croatia, Uruguay. You know, I should probably just finish the list so that you will stop disputing me with a PhD in finance and stop telling me that black people ain't got no wealth. How about we keep going to Costa Rica, Slovenia, Lithuania, Luxembourg, and Iceland? We have more money than all those countries. And in fact, if you were to add up Iceland, Luxembourg, Lithuania, Slovenia, Costa Rica, Uruguay, Croatia, Bulgaria, Ghana, Panama, Oman, Guatemala, Dominican Republic, Ethiopia, Kenya, Sri Lanka, Angola, Slovakia, Ecuador, Morocco, Kuwait, Algeria, Iraq, Ukraine, Qatar, Kazakhstan, Hungary, Peru, and Greece, we have more money than all those countries combined. In every single country that I list, they have their own school system. Every country that I list, they have their own sports leagues. Every country that I list, they have their own businesses. Every country that I list, they have their own military. Every country that I list, they have their own everything. So when you're talking about black owned stuff, you could have black owned anything. Your wealth is astronomical. Your wealth is out of this freaking world. The reason that you think you don't have any wealth is because somebody been lying to you your whole life and comparing you to white people. And because you're so obsessed with what white people have and what they're doing, you were tricked into believing that you were economically busted. You walk around here like a 7 footer who thinks he's a midget. You're literally the 7 foot the 7 foot midget. So what I'm asking you is I'm asking you to stop being the 7 foot midget and start dunking the damn basketball. Start doing what 7 footers do. 7 footers build industry. 7 footers develop ecosystems. 7 footers produce wealth builders, not just employees. 7 footers get out here and build whatever the hell they want to see built. They don't go into a neighborhood and say, "Gosh, I wish somebody would put up a grocery store." They go build a grocery store. They fund a grocery store. So here's the thing. The truth of the matter, the sad reality is that for many of us, it's almost too late. Many of us were raised on the brainwashing, raised on the nonsense. And while we can certainly do a lot before we're done, the best hope really is for the kids. If you make sure that the children are trained to have skills essential for building things, and then you make investments, make capital investments to allow them to have the resources that they need so you can clear up their time so they don't have to spend all their time at work. They will go and build amazing things. They will rebuild the black community. They will make the west side of Chicago look like a wonderful place that it's supposed to be. They will go and fix the hood in Philadelphia. They will go buy entire city blocks and build beautiful condominiums. They're going to be able to do these things because it's going to start with them just simply having the skill and the desire to do it. There is no person who gets up and goes to work every day who typically has the skill and desire and ability and resources to go out and buy a city block and develop a $100 million apartment complex. There's no you're busy at work. You wonder what the Ford general manager told you to do. You don't have time to do these things. Your attention's not there. So you're neglecting these things because you're focused elsewhere. So we're not broke. We're not broke. A lot of y'all in here are not broke. A lot of you in here make 6 figures, 7 figures. I mean, you're doing well. If you're not, you're gonna be doing well. So let's start acting like it. We deserve to have dignity. I don't believe in us being second fiddle to anybody. I don't want to hear more stories about how busted and destroyed we are and how we're always struggling. I'm not saying that we don't struggle. We do, sure, for sure. But there's a way out of the struggle if you choose that. There really is a way. So I'm done talking. I hope I got my point across. Forgive me if I was redundant, but I have to be because I get sick and tired of hearing people tell me black people ain't got no money. That is struggle talk. That is that nonsense that they feed you because they want to control you politically. That is the kind of thing that will keep you exactly where you're at. It's time for us to rise. Give me a yes if you agree. Give me a yes if I did something good today. Give me a yes if you heard what I was saying. That way we can walk away knowing that we accomplished something today. All right. So before I go, one more thing. Don't forget, get on the text list for this class if you haven't done that yet. We meet every morning at 10 a.m. You can text the word morning to the phone number 87948. So text morning to 87948. Also, we do have flashcards and workbooks for kids. If you want to train your kids this summer on economics, we have all the tools available in our Black Wealth Mastery store. And so if you want to visit the store, you can go to drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. You can get copies of my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economics Economic Power. You can get copies of our flashcards, workbooks, all kinds of tools. My wife, Dr. Alicia, is a therapist, so we're healing trauma as well, which is important for economic development. So she has materials there as well. So our goal is to help and support you in any way that we can. So God bless you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.